All right, so at this point we've got our assets over here, so now we just need to do the actual code in order to make it work. So I think what I'm going to do is take this object and try to have it falling. That's basically what we're going to be doing. Okay, so yeah. Anyway, so right off the bat, though, before I even do that, let's go ahead and we'll just call this one bird for the layer. And I'm just going to scale it down a little bit because I don't want it gigantic. And we're going to open up the actions panel. And I'm going to take this and see if we can get it to, I don't want it there. I don't know why it's got to be the whole thing. It's frustrating. Anyway, okay, so I'm going to take this and come on, there you go. And we'll just hold it. Okay, good. So we got the action panel over here. I'm going to hit the code snippets, which we have right here. And we're underneath the action script. So what I need to do is I need to add an event listener that's going to just say on every frame I want you to do something. In this case, I want every frame, I want this to tell the object to fall. Okay, so that's what we need to do. So what we're going to do is go to an event handler, and we want the enter frame event. Okay, so that I'm going to double click on that. I'm going to delete all this extra business here because I don't need any of that. I'm just going to enter a couple, and we also don't need this. Okay, so on this one, what I want it to do is basically have it fall. So I'm going to go ahead and just, it gives us this generic name, this enter frame handler. So this is the function that's going to call, and this is the function that is called. Okay, so right now it says add event listener, so it's just going to do a generic add event listener to the entirety of it, and then it says on every enter frame. That means that every time it enters a new frame, this function is going to run. Okay, so and the function is going to run as FL. I'm assuming that stands for flash, and then enter frame handler. That's real generic though, so I'm just going to go ahead and rename this, and I'm just going to call it bird fall. So bird fall, like that, and then I'm going to change this because this has got to be the same, bird fall, and that way I know what it is. All right, so all right, we're going to do a couple of things here. So in order to work with stuff, I need to have a variable that's going to keep track of the character itself, right? So just so I have a name that I can select this with, and I also need to have something that's going to keep track of its speed, and with the speed and like gravity. So I need something that's going to basically hold that, because he's going to fall. I don't want him to fall at one consistent speed. I want it to add onto the previous speed. So I have to have something I can add to. I can't just say move down. I mean, I could, but it would look kind of linear and it wouldn't build up, which is it wouldn't look very good. So first off, I'm going to make a variable to select my player. So I'm just going to do variable, and we're going to call it player, just to make it easier, and the type is going to be of movie clip, movie, and you can see it's already starting up here, so I'm just double click movie clip, and you can see it automatically knows to import stuff, which is pretty cool. And that is going to be I'm going to assign it this. Now with this object selected, you see it doesn't have an instance name, so I'm just going to call this bird, and so that's the instance name, and that's how I'm going to connect with it over here. Okay, and I gotta go back to this action panel. Okay, so it's gonna be bird, and that's it. Okay, so for now on, I will always, whenever I'm doing anything to that object, it's gonna be known as player inside of here. Okay. Okay. Now the other thing I need to do is I need to have the velocity. So I'm gonna do variable player velocity. So that's just the speed at which it's moving, and that's just gonna be an int. Okay, because it's just a number, although number's another one that you could do. And I'm going to set it to 2, because that usually looks pretty good. And I'm going to do another variable that's just going to be the stage gravity. Okay, so it's just how much we're adding onto it. Oh, I'm sorry, the initial velocity of this should be 0, because obviously it's not moving to begin with. This I want to be 2. So that's what's going to add on every time it moves, because, you know, like 9.8 meters per second square is how fast gravity pulls. All right, so we now have these up here, and we can use those down here. Okay, so we're going to say on every frame, I want the player dot y. Okay, so that's the y position. I want it equal to what the player dot y already is, so whatever it is now, plus the player velocity. So it's going to add onto it this velocity thing. So initially it's going to be 0, right? So the first frame is going to read nothing. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add to player velocity each time. So I'm going to do player velocity, and we're going to make that equal to what the current player velocity is, right? So because once it's 1, I want to start at 1. I don't want to keep starting back at 0, or 10 or 12 or whatever it's being. So it's going to be player velocity, starts at player velocity, and then we're going to add to it each frame the stage gravity, okay, like that. And I think that's everything I need. I'm going to hit Control Enter just to test it. And you can see it looks like it's falling, okay? But notice, because of the way we did it, it doesn't go down at one consistent speed. It's going down faster and faster. I don't know if it's super obvious. Because each frame, it's taking what the previous frame amount was, whatever the velocity was, and then adding this gravity onto it. So it's making it going faster and faster, all right? So that handles the falling. Now we need to handle the flying, right? So that's our down. Now we need to handle the up. So to do that, I'm trying to use the code snippets as much as possible to kind of keep it simple. But all this could be done just by literally clicking on stuff. So we're just going to use the mouse click event for this one. So you have to select the object you want to apply it to, which in fact, actually, we don't want it to be on the actual bird, but I'm going to do it in this case, and then we're going to change it. So I need to have something, so I'm just going to click on the bird. It could be any object because we're going to remove it anyway. And I just want to do a mouse click event. So I'm just going to double click, and it's going to go ahead and add this mouse click event, and I'll delete that. And I don't want, right now what it is I actually have to click on the bird in order for this to run. We added the event listener onto this object, which is not what I want. I actually want to add it to the stage. So I'm going to do stage instead. Come on, stage. And that means anywhere inside of here, if you click, it will run. Okay, that's what I want. I don't want it to have to be on the bird itself, because then I got to keep trying to click. It's going to be really super hard. Okay, so it's a mouse click event, which is great. Okay, and again, it gives me this generic mouse clicker handler and then mouse clicker handler, right? So this is the listener, this is the handler. I'm just going to change this to bird fly. Bird fly. And this would work without doing this. It's just, it makes more sense to do it in a way that, you know, you can read it and understand it. Okay. And again, I don't need any of this dummy code in there. I'm plenty dumb without it. So what we're going to do here is it's kind of the same thing as before. We're going to do player velocity. Okay. Because, yeah, player velocity, and I'll explain it afterwards. We're going to set equal to minus, and I'm going to do 15. That was just a number I saw before. That works pretty well. And it's going to change the velocity. Now, you'll notice that I'm not telling it to move the player because this happens on every frame. So if I change the velocity here, that's going to set that the player plus player velocity. So every time I click, I'm basically resetting it to a negative 15 as opposed to wherever it was, which was moving down more than likely. So this will actually handle that. Now, we'll just go ahead and test this real quick. And if I hit Control or Command Enter, you can see when I click, it moves up, right? Now, if you wanted to move up more or less, what you have to do is make this number bigger. If you make it bigger, it'll go up higher. If you want it to, you have to click more, make it less. Now, one thing I do want to make a point about, if you look, you'll notice that he doesn't flap. Even when I click, he's always playing that one animation. And if you remember, on this asset, go timeline here. On this asset, you'll see that we had that action that says stop. Okay, so it's never playing. So what we got to do also is click back on this actions. We also want to set this thing to play, that bird animation. Okay, so I'm just going to do player dot play. Okay, and what that's going to do is it's going to play this thing's movie clip. So now, and it's going to play that one. So if I hit Command Enter or Control Enter, depending on what you're working on, you can see it flips, and then it goes back to falling. Click, and it goes back to falling. Okay? Because every time I click, it's automatically going to stop right here because of that. I have that code right here to say stop. But every time I click, it goes to the next frame and it's going to play the animation. And then it automatically loops, so it comes back to stop. But if I keep clicking, it's going to keep telling it to keep playing. And so it won't stop. But as soon as I stop clicking, it goes back to stop. Okay? So that's basically how that's working. All right. So you can see we already got quite a bit of it done. That's working pretty well. The next thing to do is to actually set up the objects here that we run into and stuff. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to go to the library here, and I will put I need to make a new layer first. And it's going to go underneath here, and I'm going to call it background. Background, okay? And we're going to go ahead and slap my background in here. And yay, that's exciting. And I'm going to go ahead and lock that so I don't mess with it. I'm also going to lock the bird so I don't actually mess with that. Good, so we got a background, make another layer. Actually, is that enough to make sure it's covering everything? Yep, okay. Make another layer here. And this one we're going to call, we'll call it pipes. Okay, so, because I think there's pipes is what it is. And I have this pipes anim. Now, I'm going to control minus. All right. So I'm going to bring this guy in here, and what we're going to do is we're going to put all of them in here, and we're basically going to lay out. So I'm going to put it just off screen here, and I'll put it about halfway. And I'm just going to hold Alt as I click and drag, and I'm going to hold Shift so it also snaps. And I'll put it above. I see that looks kind of hard. Let's go up a little bit higher. We'll go like that, okay? I'm going to select both of these now, and I'm going to hold Alt, and then I'm just going to bring it over, and, you know, I don't want to make it too awfully hard, so we'll go down like that. I'm just going to do 2 just to make it a little bit easier. So you go up and down. But you can go farther with it, but you're going to see it's going to be more code, and just to keep things simple, I don't really want to do that yet. All right. So that's pipes, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one, properties, and we need to name these. So I'm going to call this one pipe 1. Pipe. So this is how I'm going to select it in the code. I need to do that in order to test for collisions. So pipe 01. And then I'll take this one, call this one pipe 02. Okay, thought I had you selected here. All right, so pipe 02. And then we'll call this pipe 03, pipe 03, and then this will be pipe 04. Pipe 04. Okay, and then what I need is my line in between that's going to keep track of the score. So we're gonna, I can go ahead and lock this again because I shouldn't really need that again. I'll hit make a new layer, and we're just gonna call this one score lines. Okay, and I'm gonna go to my score line anim one because that's the one that's actually animated, and I'm just gonna drop it. Make sure you're inside the score lines there. I'm gonna drop it in here, and you can see it's not quite big enough. So let's just make this bigger here. All right, hopefully that will still work okay. And I'm going to call this one line 01. And I'm just going to hold, let's go to V here. I'm going to hold Alt as I pull it over and put it here. And I'm just going to hit Control Enter just to test to make sure everything's moving at the right pace and everything's fine. Okay, good. So you can see they go ahead and, well, get a little bit of a gap in between. I probably should spread those out a little bit better. I can still do that actually. Let's just go ahead and this guy, come on. Give me you guys. This, oh, because I locked it, that's why. Pipes. Okay, this and this guy. And let's try that again. This, and this. And let's just move him over a little bit. Alright, that's good enough. Okay. We'll lock that, and I'm also gonna lock the score lines, and I'm gonna go ahead and, well, you should save it at this point. I'm not gonna save it just because I'm okay with what I got here. Alright, so now what I want to do is basically set up some things that are going to make it that when I hit it, I need something that's going to keep a score, and I need something that's going to say game over. So I'm going to do another layer, and I'm just going to put at the very top here, and I'm just going to call this one, we'll just call it text, because I'm just going to put both of them on the one, because they're not animated or anything. So we're going to do text, and I'm just going to use my text tool here, and I got Comic Sans, and let's do like 16-point font. Yeah, that's fine, and I'm gonna go left align, and black is fine. So I'm clicking here, and I'm just gonna do score, Control plus, so you can see score, and I'm just gonna do 0. Okay, so that'll be the score, and I'm just gonna call this one score underscore txt. Okay. Make sure that it says dynamic. It needs to be dynamic text. It might be on static or something. The other thing you need to do is you need to embed this. If you don't embed this, it actually won't work because it has to exist inside of the project, so it has access to the code, to the letters here. Right now it will work, but once we add code to it, whatever, it only adds in the letters that it currently sees. Unless you embed it, then it has access to all of the letters. And in this case, it's going to dynamically change based on the score. So I got to click on embed here, and just click on all. Okay. Just so, I mean, I don't know, you don't need these other ones, but I'm just going to click on all just because it'll be easier, and then hit OK. All right, so just make sure that's embedded. And you'll know it's embedded too because you'll see your font shows up here, although it doesn't really give you much information about it, but now it's embedded. All right, so there's score text. And I am just going to click off and click back on the text, and I'm just going to make a game over. So I'm going to make this one red, and we'll make it like, I don't know, 48. Oops. And let's put this back to black. Hang on a second. Can I go back to this, or is it going to keep highlighting that? Okay, I'll just click first and then I'll change it. So we'll make it 48, and I'm going to make it red. And okay, and I just want to write game over, man. Game over. And I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. So there you go. And we'll pull this up. There we go. Okay. And we're going to put this up here. Let's see. I guess we'll just kind of try center-ish. Pull this way. Okay. Is that looking... That's close enough. All right. And again, and I'm just going to call this one the game over underscore txt. The dynamite. Okay. So game over text. And then this one is the score text. Okay. And they're both dynamic, and I don't have to embed again because it's already embedded from the other one because I use the same font. But if you use a different font for this as opposed to this one, you're going to have to embed that font as well. Okay, so just be aware. All right, so we got both of those things. All right, and good. So now what I need to do is I need to make an event that is going to read every time. We'll start with this one actually first, these pipes, because they're actually probably a little bit more... easier to do. So I'm going to start with the pipe first, and then from there we'll do the other ones. Okay, so I can do this a couple different ways. I could just add, honestly, to this event listener bird fall, but we'll make a new one just so that you kind of, just so it's more segregated. So I'm going to go to code snippets, and I just want the enter frame event. So I'm just going to double click, and it's going to do an enter frame event, and okay. And I've got my event listener. I'm going to call this function, let's call it, I don't know, game over, does that make sense? Let me think. Yeah, let's call it game over. Okay, I'm going to call it game over. And then we'll just do function game over. And we don't need this dummy text in here. I'm plenty dummy without it. And what we're going to do is we're going to have to test if the player hits something. Okay, so we're going to say if player, okay, and then this is like a built-in method basically, hit test object, and the object we want to hit, it always does text, maybe I'm writing it, hit test object. Notice that it didn't turn blue, that's how I knew. And the object I want to test that it's going to hit is the pipe. Okay, so I'm just going to turn this back on, and it is pipe 01. Okay, so pipe 01. So I'm going to do pipe 01. So if I'm going to test if it hits this object, okay, and then I'm going to do brackets, and everything has to fit inside these brackets. We're going to go ahead and do game over text. Actually, what's the name of this? It's game. I'm just going to copy this. Control C. All right. So that's how I'm going to interact with it. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste that. Control V. So game over underscore txt. We're going to set that equal to. It's going to write game over. Okay. And boom. All right. So that will work. The problem is it's already there. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually right up at the top here. Before anything else happens. I'm just going to go ahead and actually set that text to nothing. So I'm going to do game. Actually, it's already. I'm just going to paste that text. So game over text. Oops, I did that wrong too. So I gotta fix the other one. It should be .text. So it's the text property of this object, because this is an object, but I didn't say, so I gotta make sure I write text. We're gonna set that equal to, I'm just gonna do 2 quotes. So I'm gonna set it equal to basically nothing. So it's gonna make this, it's gonna change this from game over to just nothing. So you won't see it. And then this should have been .text. Sorry about that. Okay. So now let's go ahead and test this to make sure there's no errors. And looks like no errors. And see it popped right up the first time I hit it. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this again. Just so I'll try to not hit it at first, and then we'll see. Didn't happen, right? And didn't happen. But watch, if I hit it, game over. Okay. So you'll notice it doesn't happen for the other ones because basically we're only testing pipe 1. I've tried doing the OR and then do pipe 2 and so on and so forth, but for whatever reason it just doesn't like that. So we're just going to make it, just going to copy this, Control C or Command C, Command V or Control V. Back that thing up. All right, Control V. We got to do it for each one of them. Control V. Okay. So I'm just going to make sure all my tabs and stuff look good. And so pipe 1, this is going to be pipe 2. This will be pipe 3, and this will be pipe 4. Okay, so now if I hit any of the pipes, this game over is going to pop up. All right, so good. So that one's set up. So we have that going. That looks pretty good. And now the next thing we need to do is to keep score. And it's kind of the same as the other thing, but there's one part that's going to be a little bit different. So let's go ahead and we need to add another event listener. And this is going to be the same thing. It's going to be the enter frame. So again, I could actually just add it in here, but just this way this function's game over. We're going to do a function like, I don't know, score or something. Yeah, code snippets, and just do another enter frame. And I could get rid of these instructions. Okay. And I just want to change this one to, we'll just put score. So this will keep score. Okay. So I'm just going to change that function name to score. And again, we don't need this dummy code. And actually, it's very similar to this. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this little bit here. Control C. And we're going to put in here, tab in, Control V. Oops, we need to back that thing up. All right. So player.hit test object, but this time it's not going to be pipe 1. What I want to test is, I'm going to lock that back up, is the score lines here. So if I look at this, and it's line 01, and the other one I named line 02. Okay. So that's how I know what I need. I'm going to go ahead and lock that back up. And okay, so we're going to be testing for line 01. Line 01, and what we're going to do is I want to interact with this instead of the game over text. It's this one, which is score text. So I'm just going to copy that, Control C, background actions over here, and that's what should be here, Control V. So score text dot text, and I don't want to write game over. I want to write something else. Okay, so I want to write score to start with. So we're going to do score, capitalize that. All right, score, boom, space. And then we're going to do what we call concatenate. We're going to add that to another string. Plus, and I need something to hold my score. Okay, so I'm just going to go up here and we're going to add another variable, var, and we'll just call it score. Or actually, yeah, we'll just call it score. Score is good enough. And that will be of the type int. Okay, and we need to set initially to 0. Okay, so boom, there's that. So score plus score. Now, this actually won't work because score, if you look, is of the type, it's a number. It's not a string. It's not text. Okay? Text needs a string, right? And so I can shove this in there and that's fine. But this one won't work. So you actually have to convert it to a string, but that's like a pre-built thing. So you just write string and you put it in quotes, and what it's going to do is it's going to convert what's inside of here, which is a number, into a string, and it's going to attach that with this plus. Okay? So now, if I hit Control Enter, hopefully you don't get any errors. And okay, and you'll see, yay, it didn't do anything, right? Okay, so that didn't work. So now we need to just test out why that didn't work. String score. Okay, hang on a second. Well, I'm a complete idiot. The reason why it is actually, I mean, it might be working. I think it's working. But it's just putting in the score. Well, the score is set to 0. I never add onto the score anyway. I need to actually add to the score. So before we even tell it to write the score, we need to add a point to score. So it's going to be score, right? Because I'm calling it score. Probably should call this score underscore something, because this one's score text, so that makes it confusing. Sorry about that. So score is going to be, and this is a shortcut, you do plus equals 1. And what that'll do is it'll take whatever the current score is and then add 1 to it, and then subsequently it will, you know, so if it's 0, it'll be 0 plus 1, but then if this is 1, it'll be 1 plus 1, and then if this is 2, so on and so forth. So now let's go ahead and test that. All right. And you can see, again, it didn't work. Oh, okay. I guess it was the second line? Okay, so the first one doesn't have it set up apparently, but the second one does. Now, you might notice a problem. I'm getting lots of extra points because basically it's, he's in there for a while, so that it's counting how many frames he's actually in there. So I need to actually fix that, okay? Now, there's a bunch of ways to go about doing it. Much more of them are pretty complicated. So I'm going to do this pipe first, or this line, the score line first, and then I'll do the other ones. See, wasn't this one? Oh, it's locked. Hang on a second. Let me unlock the score lines. What's this one called? This is line 1. What are you? Oh, because I need to make one line 2. If there's more than one of the same instance name, what will happen is crap. Dang it. What'll happen is it'll ignore, I think it must be the last one that exists that will do, but it'll ignore the other. So you have to have, which is kind of annoying, like each one has to have a unique name. So this is line 1, this will be line 2. Okay, that's fine. All right, so that's why that wasn't working. Okay, so I need to, when it hits it, stop, to add 1 point, but no more than that. So I can do that any number of ways. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to move it. All right. So I'm going to look at the current position. And what I'm going to do is that as soon as I hit it, after I add 1, I'm just going to tell it to go out of the way. And then we'll tell it to go back afterwards. So if you look at it, right now, you can see the Z and the Y position, or I'm sorry, the X and the Y position. So it's 15, 20, right? So if we make it 0, that'd be way the heck out of there. And there's no chance I'm going to hit that. So what I'm going to do is also, after we score, I'm going to tell that, what is it, line 01 dot Y, the Y position, I'm going to set it equal to 0. Okay. Now what that's going to do is, you'll see, as soon as I hit it, it's going to look like it disappeared. But what actually happened is I just moved it down there. Now the problem is, it doesn't come back. We'll fix that too. Okay. So that looks good. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this and copy and paste it for the other one. And then you'll see how we're going to fix this. Okay, go like this and Control V. And so this time, this is going to be for line 2. Okay, so basically both lines will work. And this will also have to say, whatever. Okay, so what we're going to do though is that every time we hit one of these, we're going to set the other one back. So on this one, whenever I hit this, I'm going to set this back to the correct Y position. So it's 1639. So I'm just going to copy that value. Okay. And we're going to do that to line 1, but then line 02 dot Y, I'm going to set that equal to that. Okay. So what'll happen is, as soon as I knock this one down, it'll put it out of the way. This one, if I had scored earlier, it would have been down here, it would have been at 0 as well. But when I hit this one, it'll actually take this one and put this one back up. Because if I'm hitting this one, I'm obviously not near this one. And we're going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to do line 01 dot Y equals, and I'm going to set it to its initial position, which is this. I'm just going to copy it, Control C or Command C, and Control V or Command V. And so now, when I hit line 2 here, it's going to reset line 1 because that would be the next one I was going to hit. Okay, and if you have more lines, you would just have each one like do the one before it or after it. Okay, so now what you'll notice is if I hit Command Enter, if I click, you can see it keeps score, right? And that looks good. But every time I hit the 1, it will reset the other one so that it goes back to its initial position. Okay, I made this kind of easy. All right. All right. So that works pretty good. Yeah, so that's pretty much all set up.
One thing I do want to do is, you can see you don't want these black lines in the way. This is actually one of the easier things. See the score lines? There's the reason why I need the background. If I put underneath the background, they're still there. You know, if I move this background, you would actually, let me go ahead and lock it, but you'd actually see them. But even though it's, you know, you can't physically see them, this will actually still work. So I put it behind the background layer. You can see it'll still keep count. You just don't physically see them because it's still going through the same area that is in. Okay, so yay, and that would be le Flappy Bird. Okay, I think that's all you really need. It's relatively simple. Oh, to publish it, just go to File, go to Publish Settings, and then, you know, you can choose what you wanna. You can do for desktop, iOS. You can do Android. Just regular Flash is fine. There's other stuff in here, like the wind projector is pretty good because it makes it like an exe, makes it a little bit easier to work with. And then you would just go to publish and so on and so forth, and we'll cover that in class anyway. It's relatively simple. All right. Yeah, so that would be it. So yeah, there you go. Good luck.